Okay, so this is off of page 501. So I'll go through some of the problems with you so that you can kind of check your work and watch to see how they're done. On these first problems, it says determine the number of solutions. So since these are all in slope intercept, all we really need to do is look at the slope and the y-intercept. If they have different slopes like they do on number 11, eventually these are going to cross. We don't know where, but somewhere these are going to cross. So we know there is going to be one solution. So now I look at number 12. Well, these have the same slope, but they have a different y-intercept. So that means these lines are parallel and they are never going to cross because they have different y-intercepts. This one starts at 4. So, 1, 2, 3, 4. It goes up 6 over 1. So it looks like this. This one starts at negative 2/3, so it's right here. Well, it goes up 6 and over 1. And so it looks like this. So these are parallel. Well, they're supposed to be, but my drawing kind of. But anyways, they're parallel, so they'll never cross. So there are no solutions. They'll also say in the book inconsistent or something like that. Inconsistent. So, anyways, um, that's what inconsistent means. Now, this one, number 13, if we look at it, oh, those are parallel, and we're like, oh, so no solutions. But then you look at the y-intercept and you say, oh, those are the same y-intercept. What that really means is that somewhere right here at 1/2, I have a line that's going up 8 and over 1, so it's pretty steep. It's like this. And then I have another line that's exactly the same one. So those are on top of each other. It's really the same line. So there are infinitely many solutions. So that's how those first 4 questions on your assignment look. It's just looking at the slopes and saying how many they are. They'll also say that the answers are dependent on this and dependent on this one as well. Not that you really need to know that, but it's just another thing that you'll see. All right, the next one that I thought I'd work out for you is number 17. It says use substitution. Now, 17, at first when I look at it, I was like, oh, we're going to have fractions. But then I looked at the bottom one, and it has just y without any x's. So that just really means all you're going to do is solve for y. And you see that y equals 3, and you plug that back in. So you have 2x plus 7y equals 1. So 2x plus 21 equals 1 minus 21. So 2x equals negative 20 divided by 2, and x equals negative 10. So that's my solution to this problem. X equals negative 10, y equals 3. On number 19, you are also supposed to use substitution. I'm going to simplify. That's supposed to be a 2 minus y on that. So I'm going to simplify this on the left-hand side a little bit. So I'm going to have 2x plus 2y equals 2 minus y. So I'm going to add a y over to here. So I now have 2x plus 3y equals 2. And I'm going to do the same thing on this one. I'm going to add 1 and add 5y. So that's gone and that's gone. So now I have 4x plus 5y equals 3. So these are a little bit tougher to do, substitution. This is very similar to what your test is going to look like. Very, very close to this problem. So it's good for you to learn how to do this. So I pick one of these. Just because I'd rather work with halves, I'm going to solve for x right here. You could have worked with fourths, you could have worked with fifths, you could have worked with thirds. Whatever one of these you choose, I just would rather work with halves. So I'm going to minus the 3y. So 2x equals negative 3y plus 2. Now I'm going to divide this by 2. So I get x equals negative 3 halves y plus 1. So now I know what x is. I'm going to plug that in for this x right here. So negative 3 halves y plus 1. Okay, so I just replaced that x with this stuff. Okay, so that's what we've done so far. So now I have plus 5y equals 3. So now I'm going to distribute that 4. So 4 times 3 is 12, divided by 2 is 6. So negative 6y, 4 times 1 is 4. You could have done this as well. 4 divided by 2 is 2, times by negative 3 is negative 6. Whatever way makes you happy. So now I'm going to combine my y's. 5y minus 6y is negative 1y, plus 4 equals 3, minus the 4 minus the 4. Negative y equals negative 1, so therefore y equals 1. So now I can plug that back in for this y that's right there. I'm going to have negative 3 halves times 1 plus 1. So negative 3 halves times 1 is just negative 3 halves plus 1. So 1 minus 3 halves is negative 1 half, and this is x equals. So x equals negative 1 half. So my ordered pair is negative 1 half 1. So that's number 19. Okay. The next one that I thought I'd go over with you is 25, just because it has decimals. It says to use elimination. I really don't like working with decimals, and it makes it harder to eliminate. So what I'm going to multiply, and this is going to sound weird, and I'll explain why. I'm going to multiply it by 7, and that would make this 0.7, but then I'm going to to get rid of the decimals, I'm going to multiply it by 70. Okay? Because if I multiplied these tenths by 10, they become whole numbers. So anyways, that's my reasoning by it. You could really just do negative 0.7, and I'm going to make this negative. And down here, I'm just going to make, no, I don't need to make that negative because that's already negative. So really, you don't need to multiply it by the 70. You can work with these decimals. If I just multiplied it by 7, that would make this 0.7, and that'd go away. So whatever you prefer to do. Like I said, I just don't want to deal with the fraction or the decimals. So that's why I'm doing it this way. You can deal with the decimals. You have calculators. It's not that big of a deal. So whatever, like I said, whatever makes you happy on that. So 7 times 6 is 42, right? So with the 0, it's going to actually be 42x. 70 times 0.1 is going to be just 7y. And 7 times 4 is 28. And because we're using 0, it's actually going to be 28. Down here, multiply 2 by 10. That's going to be 20. 10 times 0.7 is negative 7. And 10 times 0.3 is 3. So now I have 62x. My y's have disappeared, and I get 31. Divide it by 62, and x equals 1 half. So now I've got to choose which one I'm going to plug that into. I'm going to plug it into this one just because that's a whole number. That's easier to try to keep track of my decimals and things with that whole number. So 2 times 1 half minus 0.7y equals 0.3. Well, half of 2 is 1. Minus 0.7y equals 0.3. So I minus the 1 minus the 1. Negative 0.7y equals 1 minus 0.3 is 0.7 negative. And then I'm going to divide by negative 0.7. So how many times does negative 0.7 go into negative 0.7? Well, that's a 1. So x equals 1 half, y equals 1. Okay, so that's that question. So that was, again, 25. That's just me showing you how I would work this problem. You know, there's different ways you could work with it, with decimals, and that's all right as well. Okay, on number 27, I put this on here just so you could see that it's okay to multiply this by like 3 and this by like negative 2. And that's going to get rid of my x's. You could have multiplied this one up here by 6 and this one down here by 11, and that would have got rid of your y's. Like I said, it doesn't matter which one you decide to get rid of. You just pick and choose and do that. So now I have 6x plus 33y equals 12. Negative 2 times 3 is negative 6x. Negative 2 times negative 6 is positive 12y equals negative 10. So the x's go away. 33 plus 12 is 45y equals 2. So now I divide this by 45. And y equals 2/45. So that's kind of a strange answer. Realize you can plug these back into both equations once you get x and y and find out if your answer really is correct. If you plug in the x and y and you get 4, and then you plug in the x and y on this one, you get 5, you know your answers are correct. Okay, so now I'm going to have 2x plus 11y, which is 2/45, equals 4. So 2x plus 22/45 equals 4. So now I'm going to minus 22/45. So 45, double that's 90. 4 times it would be 180. So 4 is 180 over 45. So 180 over 45. So 180 minus 22, we've got a calculator, we'll use it. 180 minus 22 is 158. So 2x equals 158 over 45. So now I'm going to divide it by 2. So I divide this by 2. Dividing by 2 is really the same as multiplying by 1/2. So see if I carry this, that makes 1/2. So really I'm just multiplying this by 1/2. So the bottom would be 90, but because I see that that's a 2 on the bottom right here and an 8 up here, I know that those will cancel. So I'm going to go 158 divided by 2. And that makes 79. So x equals 79 over 45. 7 plus 9 is 16, so that's not divisible by 3. So that's probably going to be my x answer. So my ordered solution to this is 79 over 45 and 2 over 45 for my y. Now, if you don't want to plug those back in, on an assignment, you just open to the back of the book and check your work. But on a test, you plug them back in and find out if you did it right. So realize on a test, you're going to plug these back in because those seem really strange, but you take those, you plug those back in, and you know you get out 4 and you get out 5 from those two, and life's great because you just did it right, you know, even though they're ugly. And you smile and pat yourself on the back and say, good job, self, and move on to the next problem. So here we go with 41. It says you can use any method that you like. So I see that these are in y equals form. So you could really just type these in your calculator. I didn't type it in the calculator, I just drew a picture. So I start down here at -1, I go up 2 over 1, 2, 3. Grab my straight edge, connect my line so that it's a good line. So there's that line. Come to the other one, I go up 2, down 1 over 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Grab my straight edge again. Don't you wish you had a straight edge like this? And so now I can see pretty close to where they intersect. But I did not do that right. I'm just looking at my numbers, and those don't match up my pictures. So let's start over again on this thing. All right, so the one at 2, so positive 2, it goes up 1 over 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Somewhere about right there. That looks better. Start at 2, go up 1 over 6. There, that looks better. Yeah. All right. Now start at -1, go up 2 over 1, 2, 3. All right, so now that matches up my slopes a lot better. They go at the right intercept. So now I'm going to count over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, up 1, 2, 3. So x is 6, y is 3, and that's my answer. Okay, now 51. We've done these before. I'm going to show you a different way to do these using 2 variables and 2 equations. Okay, so 40 liters is going to be the 30% alcohol, okay? So we don't know how many liters there are of the 36%, and I don't know how many liters there are of the 20%. So I'm just going to call them X and Y. Pure alcohol is going to be 0.36 times X. So 36, if it were 100 liters, there would be 36 liters that are pure alcohol. So that's all that this means. We're going to take however many liters there are times it by 0.36. And we have Y of pure alcohol, we have 0.2 of however much Y there is. And I know how much this is going to be. Okay, so I know that 0.36x plus 0.2% Y is going to give me 0.3% of 40. That's the pure alcohol. Okay, so this is going to be my pure alcohol. Now, how many liters do we have total? We have X plus Y equals just 40 liters. So this is the amount there is in the 36% mixture. This is the amount there is in the 20% mixture, is just Y. And together they make 40 liters. This one with the decimals, that's the percent of alcohol in each one. So now I have two equations and two unknowns. Okay. There are other ways to do this problem. So if you want to use your other methods, that's perfectly okay. I'm just showing you how this would work in this one. So again, I don't like to work with decimals, so I'm going to multiply this by 100, okay? And then this is going to turn into 20, so I'm going to multiply this by negative 20. So 100 times 0.36 makes 36x. 100 times 0.2y makes 20y. 100 times 0.3 is going to be 30 times 40 is 1200. Now down here I'm going to have negative 20x minus 20y equals negative 800. 4 times 2 is 8, then we add 2 zeros. Same thing up here. 4 times 3 is 12, and then add the 2 zeros. So anyways, now that we have that, 36 minus 20 is 16. 1200 minus 800 is 400. So I go to my calculator. I'm going to go 400 divided by 16. And it says it's 25. So I realize I divided by 16 right here. So x equals 25. Remember, x plus y has to equal 40. Well, that means the y is 15 because 25 plus 15 is 40. So I really could have plugged that in right here and said x is 25 minus the 25 over 40 minus 25 is 15, so y is 15. So realize that x was the 36% solution, y is the 20% solution. Okay, so that's how you do a question like number 51. All right, so you should be getting close to the end of your assignment, but I'll do two more problems for you. I guess I'm feeling bad for you that you're doing this all by yourself at home. Maybe you got together with your friends or something and did it together. I don't know. That social distancing stuff and groups, whatever. But anyways, carrying on. So simple interest is this formula, I equals PRT. So I equals PRT. It tells me my interest. It tells me my principal. But it says there's two different accounts. Well, I know account A plus account B, interest off of these, so interest, equals $3,280. Okay. I know the interest. So that's the interest. Now, hold on. Let's do the interest. So interest is going to be 0.03. I don't know how much my beginning amount for A was. I know that, here's what I really know. A plus B is going to be $24,000. That's how much money we began with. Okay, so if I take amount out of $24,000, that's going to be A, and this is going to be times 4. Amount for B is going to be 0.055. That's my rate of however much money is in B, and then my time is 4 as well. Okay, so realize I normally would do it like this. I'd say this is $24,000 minus X is A and B is X. So that's how I would normally do it, just so that I'll show you that in a second. Let's carry on with my train of thought first of all here. So now I have two equations, okay? I have 0.03 of A times 4. So if you want to go to your calculator, 0.03 times 4 is 0.12. So this is 0.12 of A plus 0.055 times 4. Whoops, too many fives. Plus 0.22 of B equals 3,280. So this is the interest. So you realize I plugged in the interest formula, principal times rate times time. So I don't know how much of my 24,000 was in this account. So I just called it A. That was the amount for the 3% loan or interest. B is the amount that I'm going to put into this 5.5%. But together, A and B make $24,000. You could call it X, you could call it Y, whatever. So now I have two equations and two unknowns. So again, I'm just going to multiply this by 100 to get rid of the decimals. And down here, I'm going to multiply it by a negative 12, and that will get rid of my A's. So I'm going to have 0.12 times 100 is going to be 12A plus 22B equals 328,000. And down here it's going to be negative 12A minus 12B equals 24,000 times negative 12. So that's negative 288,000. So negative 288,000 plus 328,000, 40,000. So when I combine these, this is going to be 40,000 on this side. So that's the 328,000 minus 288,000. 12A, those go away. 22 minus 12 is 10B. So I divide it by 10. So that takes care of a 0 off of each of them. So I know that B equals 4,000, which means that A has to be 20,000 because the total amount of principal is 24,000. So if the one's 4,000, the other has to be 20,000 to make up 24,000. That's this part right here, this A plus B equals 24,000. Okay. Now the other way that I was going to tell you, that I started to show you, is I'm going to call this one X. This is 24,000 minus X. Think about it. If I put 10,000 into here, this is 14,000. Or in other words, it's 24 whatever minus whatever this is. So I know my interest on this one is going to be 0.03 times X times my time. I really should put these in order, the same order that they are in the formula, but I put it backwards, the principal and the rate. So that's the interest from A. The interest from B is 0.055 times 24,000 minus X. So this is interest of the A, this is the interest of B, and together these two interests make 3280. So then this just makes 0.12x plus 0.055 times 24,000. 0.055 times 24,000 times 4. Whoops, let's just do this part. So that's 1320. So when I distribute this, that's 1320. And realize we're still timesing this by 4 at the end. Minus 0.055. We still have to multiply that by 4. I forgot the time when I wrote this down, so that's where that 4 came from. So now 1320 times 4. That's why I didn't do it before. I wanted you to see where I was getting it from. It's 5,280. And then 0.055 times 4. We've already done that before. If you want to scroll up, you can see what it is. Or you can just do it again. 0.055 times 4 is 0.22. So this is minus 0.22 x. I forgot to put that x with that. Equals 3280. So I have this 0.12x hanging out right here as well. So 0.12x minus 0.22x is negative 0.10x minus the 5,280 minus 5,280. That makes 2,000 divided by 0.1. That's a negative 2,000 divided by negative. So go to my calculator, negative 2,000 divided by negative 0.1. It's going to be 20,000 positive. So we get that x equals 20,000. So see right here where I set this up, and I set this one's x with a 3% is 20,000. This was 24 minus x, so 24 minus 20,000 is 4,000. So b was 4,000 here, a was 20,000. So we get the same answer either way. It's just a different way of looking at it, a different way of doing it. Okay, this is kind of the substitution method. This is the elimination method. Two different ways to do it. You can also do it for proportion. All right, so the final question that I thought I'd work with you on was 59. I'm actually doing that last problem. This one's much more simple, more straightforward. Monique buys 2 cherry, 1 mint for 43 grams. So 2 cherry plus 1 mint equals 43 grams. Tara buys 1 cherry plus 2 mints for 47 grams. So there's my system of equations. Let's get rid of the mints. Sure, let's get rid of the mint. Multiply this by negative 2. Maybe you like cherry better, so you multiply it by negative 2 to get rid of your mint, so you just have cherry. I don't know. Anyways, whatever you do, it works out. So negative 86 grams. Down here, we keep it the same, so we have 1 cherry plus 2 mints equals 47 grams. We combine these, we get negative 3 c's, the mints are gone. And 86 negative plus 47 is negative 39. So I divide this by negative 3. So C equals 13. So I know that 2C plus 1M equals 43. So 2 times 13 is 26 plus M equals 43 minus the 26. So M equals 43 minus 26, 17. So mint has 17 grams, cherry has 13 grams. That's for each scoop. So there you go. That's the some homework.